My fellow Namibians, and to the great sons and daughters of Africa who are listening today, I speak to you not as a mere politician, but as a servant of our people.
By the time the second quarter of the year began, Namibia was a nation standing between admiration and anxiety. The global media had crowned President Kavari Nujoma both a visionary and a villain. Some saw him as the African leader who dared to reclaim national resources. Others called him an autocrat in reformist disguise. The mines were now fully under state supervision. The National Resources Authority, NRA, newly created and operating from a refurbished colonial-era building in Windhoek, was the government's most powerful institution. Its seal, a hammer crossed with a lightning bolt, had become the new symbol of state power. Lucas Katumbi, the young Minister of Mines, led press tours through newly nationalized sites, showing smiling miners and freshly repainted trucks bearing the flag. But the surface glow concealed deeper fractures. Production had slowed drastically. Machinery was outdated, spare parts scarce, and the exodus of foreign engineers left an aching vacuum. The uranium mines in Husab and Rossing struggled to maintain safety standards. Oil exploration projects in the Kavango Basin were halted pending reassessment. Yet, the official narrative remained triumphant. Every evening, state television aired segments titled The New Dawn of Namibia, showing images of workers singing patriotic songs at mine entrances. Selma Hengura, still the president's most trusted advisor, often found herself rewriting speeches to balance truth and hope. One evening, she placed a report on his desk, a grim summary of falling revenue, dwindling reserves, and unpaid civil service wages. Nujoma read it silently, then said, "The numbers are bad, but the faith is strong. That counts for something." "Faith doesn't pay salaries," Selma replied softly. "Neither did colonialism," he shot back. "We endured that too." Outside the palace walls, discontent brewed. University students organized marches demanding transparency in the new resource authority. Miners in Irongo complained that state management had delayed their wages. Even within the ruling party, whispers grew about the president's isolation. But Nujoma remained unmoved. He believed that history was on his side, that every great transformation faced resistance before triumph. To demonstrate progress, he unveiled a new energy initiative, the Namibian Solar Independence Program, NSIP. The plan was bold, to build the largest solar farm in southern Africa, fully owned by the state. "We will light our cities with our own sun," he declared during a nationally broadcast address. It was a stunning vision, and for a moment, it worked. Hope flickered again. Foreign environmental groups even expressed support, offering technology partnerships without profit motives. But the plan faced obstacles. The country's treasury was strained. Construction firms lacked materials, and global suppliers demanded advance payments Namibia could not afford. The president authorized the central bank to release emergency reserves. Inflation climbed. Food prices soared. Still, he refused to yield. Meanwhile, Elias Mbandi, the dismissed deputy prime minister, had transformed into the loudest voice of opposition. His speeches drew massive crowds. In Walvis Bay, he stood before thousands and declared, "Our soil belongs to the people, not to one man's dream. Nationalization without accountability is national theft." The crowd roared. Within days, Parliament announced a motion to investigate the NRA's finances. Several members of the ruling party abstained, fearing the president's wrath. At State House, Selma tried to reason with him. "Sir, the tide is shifting. You need reconciliation, not retaliation." "Reconciliation with who?" he asked coldly. "Those who sold us for percentages." "They're still citizens," she said. "And the world is watching. If this turns into suppression, your legacy will be ashes." He turned to the window, staring at the city bathed in dusk. "Legacies are written by survivors," he murmured. Days later, a shocking event rattled the nation. A mysterious explosion at the Rossing uranium mine killed 5 workers. Opposition voices immediately blamed poor maintenance and state mismanagement. In a tense press briefing, Minister Katumbi claimed sabotage. "Enemies of progress," he said, "want to paint our reforms in blood. But we will not be intimidated." The president declared 3 days of mourning and ordered a national investigation. But trust was eroding fast. Foreign embassies issued travel warnings. News outlets abroad called Namibia a country drifting into controlled collapse. Selma, increasingly weary, confided to a colleague, "We're not building a revolution anymore. We're managing a storm." In mid-year, the economy entered freefall. Fuel shortages worsened. Power cuts became routine. The once busy streets of Windhoek dimmed at night, and black market generators hummed behind closed doors. Still, the president pressed on. "This hardship is temporary," he said in every broadcast. "We are cleansing decades of dependency." But behind his composed tone, fatigue began to show. He slept little, ate less, and trusted almost no one. The isolation Selma had warned about was now complete. One evening, an unexpected visitor arrived at State House, a delegation of tribal elders from northern Namibia. They requested a private audience. They spoke gently but firmly, "We respect your courage, son of the land. But your people are hungry. The land cannot eat dignity alone." The president listened in silence, his hands clasped tightly. After they left, he turned to Selma and said, "They speak truth, but if I reverse course now, I betray everything." "Maybe leadership isn't about never changing," she replied. "Maybe it's about knowing when to." He didn't answer. The following week, the Parliament inquiry report leaked. It revealed that the NRA had spent millions on strategic consultancy and security logistics with little documentation. Opposition parties demanded resignations. Crowds began to gather in Windhoek, chanting slogans both for and against the president. Some carried signs that read, "Honor the mines, honor the people," while others held, "Nujoma out." For the first time, the army was deployed to maintain order. The image of soldiers patrolling the capital shocked the world. International aid was suspended. Journalists were expelled for biased reporting. Selma confronted the president. "This is not liberation, sir. This is fear." He slammed the table. "You think I wanted this? They're trying to destroy me. If the people knew what foreign interests are planning." "Then tell them," she cut in. "But don't fight shadows by burning your own house." That night, state television interrupted regular programming for an emergency broadcast. President Nujoma appeared live, looking worn but resolute. "My fellow Namibians," he began, "our revolution is under attack, not from within, but from outside. They fear an Africa that owns its wealth. They fear a Namibia that cannot be bought." He paused, his voice softening. "Yes, we are struggling. But we are not broken. Together, we will endure, and we will rise again." Across the nation, some wept. Others shook their heads. The following morning, crowds of supporters marched in solidarity, waving flags and singing freedom songs. But elsewhere, protesters clashed with police. The corridors of State House in Windhoek had never been so quiet. Even the guards at the bronze doors, accustomed to routine whispers of authority, felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down that morning. President Kavari Nujoma, Namibia's head of state for barely 2 years, had summoned an emergency cabinet meeting that everyone knew was not just another talk about policy. There were rumors, heavy, persistent ones, that the deputy prime minister, Elias Mbandi, would be dismissed before the end of the day. No one was certain what line had finally been crossed, but the cracks had been visible for months. Mbandi, a veteran of the independence struggle and an influential figure in the ruling party, had publicly criticized the president's recent move to nationalize strategic mining contracts. It was a speech broadcast live during the Energy and Resources Summit in Walvis Bay. Standing before foreign investors and diplomats, he had questioned the wisdom of shutting international partners out of Namibia's mineral future. The president had watched that speech from his residence, alone except for his advisor, Selma Hengura, a sharp-tongued economist who never minced words. She had looked at the screen and muttered, "He's declaring independence from you, sir." Nujoma had not replied. He only stood up, loosened his tie, and stared through the curtains at the city lights. "We will see," he said quietly. That was 3 weeks ago. The cabinet room filled slowly. Ministers avoided each other's gaze. The Minister of Defense adjusted his cuffs repeatedly. The Minister of Finance whispered something to the Attorney General, but neither dared to smile. When Mbandi entered, his steps were heavy but confident, The kind of walk that said he still believed in his own indispensability. He sat across from the president. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and everyone in the room knew this was not going to end well. President Nujoma, dressed in a charcoal suit with a national pin glinting on his lapel, cleared his throat. "Colleagues," he began, "we are gathered to discuss the future of our nation's most vital sectors, mining and energy. In recent months, confusion has emerged about the direction of government policy. I want to end that confusion today." He paused. The air conditioner hummed like an engine. "The Republic of Namibia," he continued, "was not built on the mercy of foreign corporations. It was built on sacrifice, on dignity, and on the belief that our people must control what lies beneath their soil. That is not negotiable." Mbandi shifted in his chair. "Mr. President," he interrupted, "no one disputes our sovereignty. But we must be pragmatic. We cannot chase away the same investors who bring technology, capital, and jobs. If we nationalize everything, we isolate ourselves." "Isolation," Nujoma repeated slowly, leaning forward. "Tell me, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, who isolates whom? When we sell our diamonds and uranium for a fraction of their value, who isolates our miners from their own wealth?" The room went silent. Selma, seated behind the president, scribbled notes as though transcribing history. "Elias," Nujoma said, his tone softening for the first time, "I respected you. You were part of the struggle. But lately you have chosen to fight another kind of war, one that undermines your government's policy. That cannot continue." Mbandi folded his hands. "If honesty is rebellion, then I am guilty. But I speak because I care about this country, not because I want your seat." Nujoma stood. "You already have too many seats, in boardrooms, in committees, in foreign foundations. I think it's time you had one less." The Deputy Prime Minister's jaw clenched. "Are you dismissing me, Mr. President?" "I am relieving you," Nujoma said. "With immediate effect." No one breathed. The president walked out first, leaving a trail of finality behind him. The news broke within the hour. That night, Windhoek was electric. Social media pulsed with disbelief. Headlines screamed, "President Nujoma fires Deputy PM after mining policy clash." At a pub near Independence Avenue, a group of young activists debated the move. "He had to do it," said one. "Mbandi was blocking reform. The president wants our resources for our people." "But you can't just fire the Deputy PM because he disagrees," another argued. "That's dictatorship." "Or leadership," the first replied. In a modest apartment in Katuchura, an old woman listened to the radio and smiled faintly. "I remember when we fought for this land," she whispered. "If he can make those mines ours again, maybe my grandchildren will have jobs." The following morning, Nujoma convened a press conference at the presidential villa. Dozens of reporters, both local and international, crowded the room. Cameras flashed. "My decision," he declared, "is not about individuals. It is about principles. Namibia will henceforth take full control of its mining and energy sectors. No more shadow agreements. No more foreign dictates. We will form the National Resources Authority, under the direct supervision of the presidency, to oversee all operations." A journalist from Reuters raised her hand. "Mr. President, does this mean the government is nationalizing private mines?" "Yes," Nujoma replied. "All strategic minerals, uranium, lithium, copper, and diamonds, will be placed under state management. Existing contracts will be reviewed. We welcome partners, but only on our terms." Selma added from the podium, "For decades, Namibia exported wealth and imported poverty. That era is over." Within hours, global markets reacted. Namibia's currency fell 3%. Mining stocks plummeted. Analysts warned that the country was heading towards economic isolation. But on the streets, crowds cheered. The president's convoy passed through cheering citizens holding signs, "Take back our mines," and "Power to you Namibians." Inside the car, Selma watched the crowds and said, "You've done something bold, sir. But the world will come after you." Nujoma smiled faintly. "Let them. They've had their turn." 3 days later, Elias Mbandi broke his silence. He appeared on a live interview, calm but visibly bitter. "I served this country for 40 years, he said. But I cannot serve blindly. What we see today is not empowerment, it is centralization of power. When one man controls all the minds and energy, he controls the nation." His words spread fast. Opposition parties seized the moment, calling for parliamentary review. Foreign embassies issued cautious statements urging transparency and dialogue. Inside State House, Nujoma met with his inner circle. "They will try to paint me as a tyrant," he said. "We must act before they define the narrative." Selma suggested an immediate public inspection of the mines, to show transparency. "Let the people see what's happening underground," she said. The president agreed. He announced that he would personally tour the uranium mines of Husab and Rossing, along with energy plants in Irongo region. The tour began under heavy security. Everywhere he went, workers lined up to greet him. Some bowed, others saluted. Cameras captured him descending into the mines, wearing a yellow helmet emblazoned with the national flag. "This soil," he told the miners, "has been stolen too long. From now on, every kilogram of uranium will be accounted for by Namibians." His speech was broadcast nationwide.